Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this Micro Focus web event, How Social Media Governance Protects Your Organization. My name is Steve Genovese. I'll be hosting today's event. I'm a consultant at Micro Focus. Joining me today is our product manager, Mike McGraw, and our chief technologist, Bob Tallman. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage you to submit questions or comments during our event. To do so, just type your question or comment in the question box below the slides and submit. We have a Q&A session at the end of the event, and we'll answer as many questions as we're able to during that time. Now let's get started. Mike, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Michael McGraw, and I'm the director for this product. Now, it's a little bit like the old Charles Dickens book. It's the best of times and the worst of times. When we look at the world of social media, there are so many, many opportunities available to us. If you type in business opportunities in social media, you get 134 million different responses. That's a phenomenal number. And it shows just how many people are thinking about this, how many people are talking about this, and just how many opportunities there are. Now, I said it's a little bit like the best of times and the worst of times. So there are great opportunities, but there are many, many challenges with social media as well. And social media presents those risks in many different ways. And we've just listed a few of them here on the screen. But really, you're concerned with a number of key things. First and foremost, you've got your brand and your presence on the web. You want to maintain and protect those. They're a big, important investment. You also want to protect your people, and you want to be able to make sure you're in compliance with any policies and regulations that you face. And of course, finally, the social media can be used as an attack vector, so you've got security concerns too. The good news is we can actually help address all of these, and we do. Now, this isn't theoretical stuff. This is real. And here are just some of the examples of what's been happening recently. Just to pick one, that second last one from the end, the Iranian government using social media fake accounts. That was a good old-fashioned phishing scam. So in that case, they were using a false person to solicit information that was commercially sensitive and using that to, basically break the law. Now, this isn't the only example. We look in the papers almost every day now. We see breaches, hacks, pages have been taken over. So it's a very, very risky world, and one that needs to be addressed and controlled. It's also a very expensive solution. So I just want to draw your attention to a recent survey. And this survey showed two really interesting things. Firstly, that roughly half of organizations spend up to 5% of their revenues on compliance. So that's up to 1/20th of all the money coming in is spent on compliance, which in itself doesn't generate any actual value or business return. The other shocking thing about that number is that basically half of companies are spending over 5% of their revenues on compliance. So an awful lot of money has been spent, a lot of time and effort is being invested. But if you look at the next box just to the left of that number, 91% believe that their approach is either inadequate or requires improvement. So we're in this terrible situation in business where we're spending lots of money on something and we don't believe it actually meets the needs. And that is the challenge. We need to be efficient, we need to be effective, and it needs to be cost effective as well. So what do you need to do? Well, you need three things, really. You need to, first and foremost, you need to have a way of realizing the opportunities of social media. And they are very, very real. They are very, very large. And they're only going to grow. And they're going to grow because there are demographic and technical changes behind them. The fact is more and more people today want to work in a way where they're using social media. You want to stay safe in that environment, and as an organization, you need to stay in control. You need to protect your brand, and in the event of any security events, you need to be able to respond to them quickly. And we achieve all of those things. Now, part of the way that we achieve that is Micro Focus offers an integrated end-to-end solution where we can capture and bring various forms of media into one single place and analyze them and then consume them, whether it be in supervision, analytics, machine learning, or many, many other areas. In this presentation, we're focusing purely on social media governance. And we mean that in as broad as possible sense. So we're focusing on not just the obvious things like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, but we're also to look at other forms of social and collaborative media, such as SharePoint, WhatsApp. So with that, I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Bob Tolman. Bob, you're going to explain us a little bit more about how this actually works in practice.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate the introduction. My name is Bob Tolman. I'm a technologist with the Digital Safe platform, and much of what I've been focused on for the last couple of years working with Michael has been on the Digital Safe platform and the various channels and various interactions that the archive or the content platform needs to interface with to be a proactive and a comprehensive solution for our customers. So one of the things that we brought forward especially with the focus on the social media influx within our customers is a platform that will allow us to provide not only archival but also the ability to govern and supervise the content in several different fashions. One of the points that Michael brought up earlier on, which is that the channels out there are prolific in the sense that it's no longer really a handful of whether it's just Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and some various smaller components. It's just continuing to grow. New elements with chatting applications such as WeChat and WhatsApp, the fact that they're getting higher and higher adoption with our corporate customers with regard to how they deploy in their BYOD environments and providing basically sanctioned applications that they want their employees to communicate over so they can regulate that and have a comprehensive coverage model for any communication that's occurring. But that just constantly is an ever-increasing variable as far as the number of channels that our customers need to adhere to and trying to manage. There's various departments, various methodologies. Our customers are seeing this in all different areas of their business, and it's becoming such a major influence and an impact on how business is run at this time that you have to adopt and you have to adapt to really how these channels are coming into the mix and what to do with them, because customers are finding that they're getting inundated with the request to bring applications online, but on the flip side, they're also getting inundated with the ability or the need and mandate to be able to comprehensively govern those various channels that they want to bring in place, any kind of communications. And so they're experiencing bottlenecks and such too with regard to trying to drive their business forward. And that's really one of the areas that we've been focusing on, is how do we make that easier for our customers as a go-forward strategy, with not only with solutions that we've had in place, but also expanding upon that to provide additional capabilities around the social media challenges that our customers are seeing in the market. So the approach that we looked at was we brought forth an application called the Digital Safe Social Media Governance. It focuses on really a comprehensive area of the market, in the sense that social has various contexts to it. Again, like we mentioned earlier, you have the traditional ones such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., Google+, YouTube, and other elements, but you're getting into the internal communications within organizations. SharePoint, Yammer, Slack, Skype for Business, IBM Connections, and things of that nature. Salesforce.com for another one, actually, because that's even becoming more and more dynamic in our customer base as far as how people are driving and monitoring their business. You need to look at a way of how do you provide a platform that can not only archive the content, capture it, repose it, and store it, and provide necessary tool sets to work with it in a comprehensive platform. You also need to look at the compliance aspect of this too. Not only just being able to capture it, but what do you do with it? How do you parse it, identify it, supervise and govern the particular applications themselves? How do you want to work with this? Is it real time versus batch? Do you want to work with portals and proxy systems or API-centric types of applications? There's a myriad of different ways that this has been done over the past, and I'll get into a little more about how we're approaching it a little later on in this webinar. But it's also an aspect: how do you secure the actual social footprint of your organization? How do you protect that digital image that everyone has of your organization or your brand in the market? How do you keep track of this? I mean, you look at the case like United Airlines with the one instance over the summer, I think over the winter, where they dragged the one particular passenger off the aircraft, and it went viral within the social media posts, as far as whether people were posting on Facebook or YouTube or various other social channels. It was damaging to United in general. The stock took a hit. So it was very, very immediate impact that occurs to a business these days with the social channels that are out there. So there's a need to have that ability to look at what's going on, look at how people are accessing or referencing your brand in the market, as well as taking a look at and understanding the various impact that your key people have and other people that maybe they're trying to look at hijacking their presence in the market. So again, it's a comprehensive strategy, not just looking at being able to capture content. It's what do you do with it once you actually get it. In that context, the social media governance workflow works in a very simple fashion, in the sense that the first pass is obviously the most easiest one, which is essentially capturing the content or interfacing with the various social channels so that you have a integration in place. One of the things that we do a little bit differently than others is that we have an API integration with the majority of the channels where available. Some of them do not have it, so therefore we're working through other mechanisms to capture the content. But in most cases, we have an API layer which is talking direct to the applications, such as with Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We are tied directly at the app level with them. So when you're managing any of these particular channels, if you're managing a particular employee, there's an opt-in process. Because we're all about the security and privacy. So making sure that we're governing who we need to govern and not getting into trying to be, I guess you can say, a big brother approach and capturing more content from invading people's privacy as far as what they're doing in their private life. We're focused on the business side. So with that said, when you're doing this and you have policies in place, what you're looking at doing is analyzing the data as you're processing it, as it's being posted, so that you understand have the ability to take control over those particular actions. One of those actions, and this is available in several of our channels, is the ability to quarantine a particular item. What that means ultimately is that based upon a potential risk level that has been achieved based upon what's been posted, you have the ability to automate and take action on that particular post. In this case, it's called quarantine, much like you would think with an antivirus. If something came in that had a virus embedded in a Trojan, like you can do examples, your antivirus will grab it and not allow it to be accessed by your workstation or whatever device that you're on. Well, we're functioning in a very similar manner. So we're taking that social post and we're quarantining it from the actual platform, preventing it from being posted and put out into the public visibility, and retaining it for analysis and review to determine, okay, was this post, was it a 100% match? Were we actually accurate in our assessment of the risk? And if not, if it's a false positive, again, we can take action about it and also repost the content back out to that social channel and allow it to be recognized in the open up market as it would have if it had not been intercepted by our governance processes. But in that sense, once it's brought into the environment, it goes through a direct link with our Digital Safe platform to be stored via an API into the Digital Safe archive. And what this provides for you, as far as an extra value here, is that it's a comprehensive repository of content. So it's a content store of all various different sources of information that are really reflective of the corporate memory, whether it's email, whether it's files, whether it's documents, whether it's whether it's other sources of data. It's putting into a central spectrum of storage and allowing you to then function off of it and drive your business by using analytics and being able to see various different types of communications and aggregating into one location to provide additional business value. These posts that we talked about before, in the sense if it is of issue, the moderator has the ability to take action on it. And like I said before, the content is released back to the original social platform if indeed there was a problem. But the key here is that it's a tightly integrated solution between the capture of the social post to the point of where it's actually reposed within the archive. And regardless of what happens within the governance stream, the content is always captured and archived for a comprehensive memory within the Digital Safe platform. I mean, as we're talking about this, we mentioned this earlier, it's not just about if you need it. It's a sense of really how do you want to implement it? How do you want to protect yourself? Because the channels are just so prolific out there, it's a constant need of trying to deal with a particular situation that's constantly facing most of our customers. You don't have a regulatory, get out of jail free card. You have to look at this in the context of, I need to protect my business, I need to protect my brand. And by default, day-to-day business, day-to-day applications, things that I use to run my business are becoming more and more social and more collaborative. How do I deal with that? It's constant growth at this particular point in time, far greater than growth in the social platform than we ever saw with email. And because of the nature of the fact that these social applications are so diverse, yet similar in nature, but very diverse in the sense that they're coming from different sources, they have different nuances to them, and it becomes how do you handle these? And I think, and that's where we come into play, is that we're providing a platform for this to take this approach and how to solve this problem, and we're looking at this in the context of a comprehensive overall solution of going at this, is having a framework to work from and applying capabilities based upon the demand of the various social applications that are coming at us. There's some differences out there between the approach that we've taken with the approach that others have taken. And it starts off with the very basics, as we were talking earlier. We look at it as we've integrated at an API level, which is real time with the application itself. So we have a more direct interaction with the particular social channel that we're working with. We don't interfere with the day-to-day operation and function of the user. You're accessing the social networks as you would normally access them directly. We have control over that in the sense that we can protect the organization and monitor these particular users or pages, for that matter, at the source level. It allows you to really protect the user without getting in their way. So if customers are mobile and they're functioning traveling sales individuals, if they need to conduct business and post and have communications with their clients, they may not be on a corporate network. Well, how do you protect them then? How do you protect yourself at that point as well? These are things that we looked at when we started to address how did we want to solve the problem. And we could have gone with what was already in existence with many other applications that are out there, taking the standard approach of a proxy-based system. But we chose to take the path of an API integration simply because it allows us to have a better comprehensive solution to provide protection across more areas of more corporate assets over more areas, so that it allows businesses to function more and more in a natural day-to-day workflow versus having to impose changes in how users function within the day-to-day business flow. Again, trying to stay out of the way of the user, being more transparent to them so they don't feel that they're being watched or having their actual day-to-day tasks being inhibited by additional process. Other things that I think that are kind of key here, and we'll hit this before we get into the Q&A session, is that we talked about security. There's two different elements here that are a little bit different in the sense we're not just doing archiving, we're not just doing proxying and looking at enforcing policies. We're also looking at the ability to track and look at social profiles of various individuals within the organization, looking to see if there's actually additional email addresses or social presences of particular individuals that are out there, also looking for fake ones. The case where individuals are potentially getting hijacked, where people are trying to take your account and hijack it and use it for illicit actions, and using a spoof of a name or something of that nature that's very similar to it. You've seen these in emails that have come in with the phishing aspects, where you think that it's actually something that it looks recognizable. When you actually take the second look at the actual text, you realize that there was a change in a font, there's a change in there's a space or a hyphen. But when you first looked at it, you thought it was something familiar. Same thing here. It's taking names and such, and we're looking at actually how do we protect our customers from this type of action, allowing you to see what's going on and within the social networks, and giving you the ability to take action. The same thing is true with social profiles of your default pages for your corporate assets, and even particular individuals that are posting on it. Monitoring these social profiles, archiving them for reference and for compliance, but also providing the ability to protect them, and also then take action if someone were to try and gain access and deface a page, for example, and put illicit or inappropriate type of content on there to try and embarrass an organization, and then by posting that that so-and-so site has this kind of content, and though that can go viral on its own, in this case, it's protecting you from that kind of action, allowing that to be tracked, and allowing it to be automatically stopped, and also allowing it to be automatically recovered and put back to a functioning basis point.
We've had some great questions come in. Oh, thank you, Bob. We had some great questions come in, so let's jump right into them. First one I want to direct to you, Bob. What do you mean by the word quarantine?
Well, quarantine, much like, I guess, the example we're looking at is, you want to think of it as an aspect of it like an antivirus would work on your workstation. So various social channels that we have within the social media governance application, you have the ability to, based upon a policy or a level, a threshold being hit, you can take action on that particular post. So you can quarantine, essentially encapsulate it and prevent it from actually being accessed and posted to the social platforms, but allowing you to then analyze it and take action against it to determine if this was valid, then then we can repost it. But if it was indeed an issue, notify the poster that this action was taken, their post was pulled down and quarantined because of this, whatever potential policy it violated, and notifying an administrator so that actions can be taken, then rectify, or maybe it's, and take action with the user to understand what was wrong and work forward to become better aligned with what the business practices are.
Thanks, Bob. Here's one for you, Michael. What about encrypted point-to-point products like WhatsApp?
Hey, thanks. That's a great question. So for those who aren't familiar, WhatsApp is one of the classic communication technologies that uses encryption from point to point. And what that means basically is that it's very, very hard to see that content. Now, Bob mentioned already we work at the platform level. And he also mentioned that we work with the user's consent. So what that means is that we can actually capture the message prior to encryption and then bring it safely back to our environment for governance. That's important for three reasons. First of all, unlike many other solutions, the message isn't determined on going through the firewall. We get all of the messages that user sends. So that's the first thing. The second thing, the time and cost of cracking encryption is avoided. So that's really important. And then finally, because we have the user's consent, and this is really crucial, the data, the information gathered is completely admissible. So therefore, the user can actually consent beforehand. We don't get it without their consent, and therefore there's no issues around using that data. So we do it that way. We get it straight from the application, and we get around those three issues. Back to you, Steve.
Thanks, Michael. Here's another one for you, Bob. Are there other products addressing these problems, and how does Micro Focus compare?
So the obvious answer, Steve, to that one is yes, there are other applications that are out there that are doing this. But the key thing for us is that we've taken a different approach in how do we solve the problem. So much like you're referencing here, we have this at the API level. We looked at this to take it at an integration level that's different from some of the other traditional solutions that are out there. By doing so, it puts us in a different interface, a different interaction frequency and capability level with these social platforms, and ties us more closely to their changes and things of that nature. A couple other simple ones here is that when you look at this, that we provide template libraries. And what that means is that we provide essentially policy language and rules that are used for the supervision and governance of the content coming in, based upon industry standard best practices. So basically the FINRA regulations or HIPAA regulations, any kind of illicit content that's out there. We have default policies that are looking for this particular information and looking for words and terms and such of that nature to help our customers stay better protected, but also allows them to get more dynamic updates to this, because our libraries have working two functions, one of which is whether it's in offline mode, which customers will typically use. They take a copy of it and work with their own version of it, or we have it in the sense that it's in an automatic mode where by default, when changes occur, we'll upload them to our cloud, and then that cloud profile will be proliferated to our customer base so that they have the changes and updates over time. And the last one real quick is the hyperlink capture. With regard to FINRA's regulations and other regulations that are starting to come out with regard to understanding intent, we take a hyperlink that may be in a particular social post and follow it and create a snapshot of that particular page that is being referenced by that hyperlink. And we captured not only the link and the text of the page we're looking at, but a physical screenshot of it, so we have more of a permanent record of that particular page at that particular time. I mean, there's other ones too, but it's a matter of time. I figure those are the highlights.
Thanks, Bob. That's all the time we have today for questions. Thank you to our audience for your great participation. If we weren't able to answer your question today, we'll respond directly via email. In summary, this is what we covered. We discussed the key issues revolving around social media governance in today's landscape and how to remediate those issues for you. Please note that a replay of today's event and a PDF copy of the slides will be available on demand shortly. And of course, we invite you to share them with your colleagues. Again, thank you again for our audience today. This concludes our event. Have a great day.